Hi everybody and welcome to my studio. My name is Lonna and I am an acrylic artist, and here on my YouTube channel you will find many different ways to paint with acrylic paints and have so much fun doing it. So today we're going to be painting this lovely little design that I have titled Color Wheel Beach Chairs. Isn't this a great project, you guys? It was so fun. It only took me like an hour to paint. Very simple, easy, not a lot of decorative painting techniques are involved in this one. So it's one that's easy for anybody to paint. And I hope that you're going to grab your paints and paint along with me. I will be using DecoArt Americana acrylic paints on this project. You can find a packet for this on my website, that is lonnalamb.com, so go check that out. And I hope that if at any point you enjoyed this video, you give me a thumbs up. Please subscribe, please share, and please comment. So let's get painting. Okay, let's start this design. So to get my surface where it needs to be to get started here, I have applied a coat of multi-purpose sealer with a damp artist sponge. Now this is a wood panel here, but if you're doing on a canvas, you can skip this step and then just go and paint on your, even on a canvas panel, I like to at least apply one coat of white paint. So I have applied 2 coats of white paint onto my surface here with my damp roller. Okay, I'm gonna mark up about 4 3/4 inches, somewhere about in there. It doesn't have to be perfect, just a rough estimate. I've got a watercolor pencil. This color is turquoise. This one is a General's pencil. And I'm just going to mark my horizon line because I'm going to have some water. My water is going to be up here. We're not going to see the sky. This is going to be my water, and then we're going to start the sand and put in our main element here. So we are going to get started here. Now you don't have to use a watercolor pencil. You can use a dressmaker's pencil in any color. A regular pencil in any color, it doesn't matter. I just grabbed a watercolor pencil and used that, so you're good whatever you choose to use. Okay, I want to start with the water in the background. Got my paints all knocked over, so. Okay, so back here is going to be water, and it's going to kind of start going into some sandy area right through here. So for my water, I've got a couple of blues. I think I'm going to use some open water and some moody blue for my water in the background, and some white. I'll definitely have some white in there with it because we don't need this to be super dark back here. We can tone it all down with water if we need to, or water with white. But I'm going to put some of both of these colors out. They're both, I really like both of these colors because to me they are an oceany type color. You could use some spa blues, some, you know, really, you can't go wrong. Whatever color of blues that you decide to use will be okay. Alright, let me put some white out, and I'm going to spritz my palette with some water so I can have my water drops handy and ready. And I think I might go ahead and put out at least one of the colors I'm going to use on the beach. Right now it's oyster beige, so I think I'll put some of that out. We're going to have a pretty big sandy area on here. So let's just get laying in some color here, and then we'll add more as we need to. So I'm going to take some of this one is open water. I'm going to mix some white in with it so it's not quite so dark. And we're going to loosely paint this in at the top. Grab some more white. Definitely want more white in there. Wipe off and get a little bit of the darker blue and put just some hints of this color in there. This can be all messy and blurry, and don't make anything perfect by any means. I'm just trying right at this moment to get my surface covered. Okay, I like that little bit of movement in it because it does kind of make it look more like the water. So I'm going to take some white and do that in here. It's going to blend with that paint, so we're not really going to see the white part of it. I know right now we do, but I wiped the excess paint off, and now I'm just very loosely blending. That looks pretty good. I'm going to just wipe the excess paint off of my brush and pick up some of this. This is Oyster Beige, and I'm going to start bringing that in here into the water a little bit. I've got that blue in my brush. It's kind of making a little bit of a almost green color, which is perfectly fine. We're just going to blend that out to the water area. Okay, and then we're going to start bringing our sand down even more on here. I might add a little bit of white into my sandy area. Kind of break it up. I'm just going to tap some in there and wipe the excess on my paper towel and just very gently blend that out. Kind of looks like the water's rolling in onto the sandy area, so that's looking super cool. You can see a little bit of my canvas in my background here. Try and tap some paint into those places, wipe off excess, and then gently blend. Alright, that looks really cool. To me, it looks like the water and the beachy stuff, but way in the distance. Way in the distance. So I am not going to wash my brush. I'm just going to continue with our sand color all the way down. We'll just get an undercoating of this color first, and then we'll come back and add in our other colors. And it's okay if we got some of that blue still in our brush. Varied colors in our sand is important to make it look a little more realistic. So just keep picking up and working this in. Because I did not clean my brush, I just wiped off excess. I've still got a little bit of blue in there. So every now and then when I give a little bit more pressure on the brush, it's leaving some of that blue in there, and I love that. We don't want this to be a one-note color sand, so we want to have some variation in here. Let me put this paper towel down so I can keep from getting paint on my easel here. Okay, that looks pretty good. I don't want to go back up and rework any areas because I don't want to over blend it. I want to see those different colors coming into the sand. So I'm going back in and kind of covering up some areas where I can still see the the background a little bit, and as I push on the brush, it's leaving some of that blue in there. Now, isn't that just a gorgeous beginning to a painting? I absolutely love how it looks. I think it makes me feel like the water's rolling in, and yeah, it's coming up on the beach. I love it. It's gorgeous. Okay, let's get this dry, and we're going to do a little bit more to the beachy area and then put our line drawing on. Okay, I've got my surface laying off of my easel because we're getting ready to do one of my least favorite things to do in painting, but it's a very effective to do, and that is to splatter some color into our sand. We'll be layering onto our sand a little bit, but we want to get some different colors in there. So I've got some burnt umber and some portobello color. And then of course we've got our whiteout. Now I'm just going to do this with a rake brush, but you can use any kind of brush, will do just fine to do this technique. So I'm going to thin some of my paint out. I don't want to get it overly thin. I am going to have a baby wipe handy in case I want to remove any of the splattering that I put on here. This feels a little thin. I'm going to add a little bit more paint in there. Oh. It's too thick in the brush there. There we go. I want those teeny tiny little drops on there. I don't know if you can see those. They are little bitty. Okay. Wide angle back out. Just those little bitty. Kind of all over. This is the portobello color. So I don't have tons in my brush, so that's how I'm able to get these more tiny things, because I wiped my brush over on my paper towel, which removed a lot that was in this brush. So now I've just got a little bit, so I can get those tiny little specks on here. And if you get it where it's got those flings and those lines coming out of it, your paint's probably a little bit too thin, or you might have a little bit too much in your brush. I would say mostly you probably have too much in your brush. Okay, that's that color. That looks pretty good. Let's do the same thing with some burnt umber. See if we can get those little spots here. Burnt umber is a little bit thinner paint. I mean, it's a more transparent paint. So there we go. You kind of want to see the differences in here. The color. Try to keep it out of my water. I see I got some up in my water, but I'm not going to worry too much about it. Okay. This can also soften those down in there, because we'll probably do this a couple of times because we've got to put another layer on top of our sand. So I'm going to go ahead and rinse this out. We got those 2 layers on there, and we want to add another layer on the sand, and then we're going to do another spattering layer. I'm going to leave this off my easel since I'm going to have to do some more spattering on here. So I want to take my oyster beige and some white and make a little bit lighter color. And we're going to be a little choppy and messy about this. Just kind of dab it around. I'm going to have my baby wipe with me so I can kind of tap that. It's going to lighten it just a little bit and soften it down in there. And give it a little bit of a more of a sand look, I think. We want it to be very messy. I mean, this whole background on this is messy, messy, messy. So do not try to be neat or be organized or try to have control. That's something we absolutely do not want in this background. We want to create some layers of stuff that can make us think that it's sand. So if we work too hard at it, we're going to take that effect away from it completely, and we don't want to do that. So I don't have a lot of paint in my brush. I'm just picking up little bits at a time and tapping it in here. I think that looks pretty good for our next layer on here. I think I want to do one more thing to the background before we put our line drawing on here. Okay, I want to do one more thing on this background before we put our line drawing on here. I want to create a little bit darker area back through here. Maybe there's some rocks out in there, there's some shadows, I don't know. I'm going to take my burnt umber and my portobello and mix them together. I'll just do an equal mix. I've got quite a bit of water in my paintbrush, and I'm going to have my baby wipe or a damp paper towel handy. I'm going to come in here and very messily, everything about this background is messy. Messy, 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 messy. And I'm going to tap that and kind of blend it. It's a little high there, so I'm just going to remove that. This is a very wet paint. It's not, I have more water in my brush than I do paint. Okay? And we're just going to tap that in there. And maybe put just a little bit over here. I don't know. We're just creating a background. We don't know. I don't know. I just want to get some different colors back in here. Kind of give us the idea of it's just maybe thicker sand right through there. I'm going to dry that real quick. So I want to bring this down just a touch more on this side. Maybe right through there. So you see it looks pretty dark right there. It's very, very, very wet paint. Not a lot of paint in the mix there. It's mostly water. But it's not, my brush is not dripping with water. So, you know, that kind of makes a big difference there. Okay, I want to get this dry because I want to add that layer of oyster beige and white again. So I'm going to take my oyster beige and my white and mix them together. And again, I still have you know, water in my brush, kind of like I did right up there. I still have the same. So I'm just going to dab this in here and then kind of very messily blot it out. I don't want any hard lines here in my transition from my dark color to my light color. This is where you really get to kind of play in the paint, and it's always so fun. You don't have to be so structured with this. You can just have fun with it. Might put a little bit of oyster beige in with that. Maybe make it a little bit darker up here in the front. Yeah, I like that. So I just added a tiny bit of oyster beige as I came up to the front. I know that's pretty blue right in there. It doesn't matter because what we put on here is going to cover all that up right there. So I do want a little bit more color down here. And you can come back in and do your splattering again. All that. Okay, that looks really good. I like that. Okay, I'm going to get it dry and we're going to put our line drawing on here now. So that finishes up our background. We put a little bit of brown stuff over here, and I might just blur that out a little bit. So I'm just going to take, okay, I don't want that drop on there. I'm just going to take some water and make it just a little bit softer up through here. because that's pretty fresh paint. We can just go in here with a little bit of water and remove some of it. Don't scrub too hard. You'll remove all your layers underneath it. But we just want to take that down just a little bit. All right, that looks pretty good. I like the background, so let's get it dry and get our line drawing on. Okay, we've got our line drawing on here. Isn't this going to be so fun? So fun, so fun. I'm so excited to paint this. Okay, first thing I want to do is paint a sky in here. Now I want the sky to be a really bright blue, so I've got a color that I'm going to be using on one of my chairs. And I'm going to put some of that out and mix it with some white to get a little bit brighter sky blue. Some of that moisture out of my brush here. So I'm going to mix this bright blue that I've got here and some white. And we're going to paint this in right through here. Come down into that line that I made, because that's where my grassy stuff is going to go. But we just want to see a little bit of the bright sky right there. And then we're going to start painting some grassy stuff in here. So I'm going to go work on this side over here. Let me grab my pencil. I didn't put this line on my line drawing, but, well, I did. I just forgot to transfer it. So I want some grassy stuff that is up back through here. Kind of comes down and then goes back up, okay? And then over here, I drew the line over here for this one. So we're going to just work on our grassy areas. We're going to take a dark green first and put that in. This is black green, and I'm just using a filbert brush, and I'm just just like I've done the whole rest of the painting, just loosely and messily putting this in. This is our undercoating for our grassy stuff. Might add a little brown in there, get it a little brown green. I think that will be better. So let's do an equal mix of the burnt umber and I think this is black green what I got here. So I'm going to go all the way up to the frame here. Try to keep it messy, but not go past my frame. I mean, my frame's going to cover up some of this at the edge, so. And I did put the link in the packet for the reference photo that I am referencing here. All right, let me mix some more. This is that burnt umber and green. And first over here, I want to put kind of a tree, kind of. I don't know what kind of tree it is. It should be a pine tree, but in the picture it could just be some kind of bush growing up here. So we'll just, and that's a big, thick bush. We don't want it to be quite that thick. We want to see some of that sky through there. So I'm going to remove right through here. And then we're going to start that again. And just make it messy, but leave some of that blue showing, okay? Leave the blue showing. And then we're going to continue down all this grassy area. This is kind of, I don't know, some sticking up grasses here. So this is a pretty worn out filbert brush. So I can get some of those grassy looking things. Then some of my paint with some water. I can get some of those grassy looking things coming up here. And then we're just going to tap the rest in. An old brush will work really good for doing this because you don't have to worry about damaging it because it's already old and worn out. This brush was getting a little bit frayed on the ends, so I figured it would be the perfect one to use. Try not to go past your glass shape, but if you get past it, just grab a damp brush and remove anything that you need to remove, okay? So we want this edge to be just messy and loose, and some grasses coming out, you know, wherever. You don't want it to be a perfect little shape here. Let's make it irregular. And okay, so we've got that first little layer in there. That looks pretty good. I do need to put a little bit more on this little bush thing back here, or whatever it is. I'm not really sure what that is, but it, you know, kind of sticks up back there in the corner. So, all right. We're going to put a lighter color of green on top of this, so we want to make sure we've got a good foundation here. So if your color is not very dark, go back in with another layer, a little more green in there. I'll put a little bit more over here. You don't have to do the whole thing the second time, just do some places that are darker, because that's going to give your grassy areas a little bit more character here. So that was just with that equal mix of burnt umber and black green. Let's take this same brush, and I'm going to take some foliage green, and I'm going to start dabbing this in here. A little bit too much on my brush. So we're just creating some higher grassy areas. We'll do this a couple of times because I don't think one time is going to get it. If you've got an old foliage brush that you like to use, like I said, this brush for me is pretty worn out. So for me, it works pretty good for what I want it to do. So I load my brush, then I offload and start dabbing lightly because I don't know what all is going to come off. Might add a little bit of yellow to this to get some little brighter areas on here. I got a little bit too much right there, so I think I'm going to go back a step. Wrong color. And take the black and the burnt umber and dab a little bit of this in there, kind of break that up just a little. Okay, I'm going to go over here and do the same thing. Load my brush, wipe off a little bit more. Put this first layer on here, our grassy areas. Okay. We'll probably come in and dab a little bit of our kind of sand color in there to break that up a little bit, but for now I'm really liking how that looks. I think I'll put some yellow out of my palette. I've got lemon yellow. I'm going to let it mix with my dirty brush. So I'm going to pick up some of that. I'll probably do a 2 yellow and 1 green mix here. Maybe a little bit more yellow. I feel like it needs a little bit more light. These are pretty light layers. They're not anything that's, you know, overly done. So if you're putting heavy paint down, you just need to go over and remove it onto your paper towel. And really, if you've got an old brush that you're using, really scruff up the edge of that brush so it can, you know, leave more texture behind. The more kind of really splayed out and messed up it is, the more texture that you're going to get. Okay, a little bit more over here. Okay, I think that looks pretty good for the green colors in there. I'm not going to add any more colors onto that. I am, however, going to come in here and add a little darkness under here for some shadow and create that. I'm going to use my well, I think I'll use my, well, first I think I'm going to take my sand color and tap a little bit in there and kind of break it up, not make it look like solid grassy area. Let me do that first. Load my brush, offload. Kind of break it up just a little bit down here where it's coming into the sand, because it's not going to be solid in there, you know. Some of that sand's going to mix in with the grassy areas. I don't want to spend too much time on this grassy area, but I do want it to look a little more natural. Right there, I don't like that little area, so I'll wipe that off. Okay, let's do a little bit of kind of shading underneath this stuff. Now you can pull twigs and sticks and all that kind of stuff out of there. I'm not going to get that detailed. The photograph is a little more detailed like that, but I am not going to get that detailed. I'm going to keep it, you know, just more playful. Not super realistic here. So I'm going to take my Portobello and my Burnt Umber and mix them together. And we're going to get a little bit of shadowy stuff here. Let it kind of blend in with your grasses. So don't leave any hard lines. Make sure you really smooth that out and make it look more shadowy back there. Burnt Umber and Portobello, and I'm just using a small flat brush here. Burnt umber in there. So let's do 2 burnt umber and 1 Portobello. I think that's going to give us a better little shadowy color, because burnt umber is transparent, so it won't take over, and that Portobello is a little more opaque. But you can certainly bring some of this up into your grassy areas to create even more depth in there. And I think that looks really good. So I'm going to say that the grassy areas are done. I like it. I think it looks great. And we're going to move on to painting these chairs in. I'm going to keep the chairs pretty basic, but I am going to make them the colors similar to the colors in the photo, where it looks like it's a color wheel of chairs. I really love it. So we're going to keep that look for sure. Okay, I've looked at the photograph again, and in the grasses over in through here, it's a little bit of that darker green. So I'm going to take my dark green and my burnt umber and remove a lot of that on my brush and just tap in a little bit more of the dark stuff over here and make this a little bit darker area over there. And then over here on this one, it's a little bit darker right through here, so I'll just darken that just a little bit. And that's good enough. I just kind of wanted to keep the, you know, keep it a little bit close to the photograph, okay? It's not going to look exactly like the photograph by any means, but we just kind of want to make it look similar. All right, so our chairs are going to be color wheel chairs. And we're going to start out by just painting in some lines. We're not going to really, these are the only two chairs we're going to see major detail with. The rest of them are all going to just be painted in. Let me find some round brushes that I think might do the job. And see which ones I want to use. Try this one first. Okay, so we're going to start with blue. I'm just going to go ahead and put all my colors out here. We'll have to do each color twice. And I'm probably going to have my photograph in front of me for this because I'm not going to be able to, I got to be able to see what chair has what. We can see the arm of the chair in front of it, but not the arm of the chair we're painting. Does that make sense? Okay, so let's put our colors out. And this green that I'm using is the same green I used in the grass, so hopefully it will be a bright enough green. I'll definitely want some white out in case I need to lighten any of my colors. So whatever colors you want to use for a color, kind of color wheel type thing, then you go ahead and put those colors out. So let me grab some white. And spritz my palette here. And let's get going. Okay, I'm going to see if this one's going to work for me. So on this chair, we've got an arm here. There, you know, there's probably another chair past this one, but we're just starting with this chair. So we're going to take this blue that we've got here, and we're just going to paint our lines. Now my lines are kind of dark, so I'll have to go over them a couple of times, but some of these colors are a little transparent, but I think they're such pretty colors. And that one I got too close together, so I'm just going to come in here and remove a little bit and maybe restroke that one. These can be just a little bit fatter than what I'm painting them. We don't want to have to worry about perfection here, so. And then we can see that part of our chair coming below there. Okay, and then this arm back here will be this color. Okay, we can't really see the arm on this side, so we're going to move on to the next chair. Except for no, we can't see that. Can't see it. Okay, next chair. And I see I forgot to add some lines on here. Let me add some lines real quick. Okay, I'm not sure I drew those best, but we're going to go with it. Alright, we're going with this color on the next one. Come down here. That is not the bottom part of this blue chair that we're painting, or this teal colored chair. This one is. This is the bottom part of it. And we'll see a little bit of stuff there. Try to make sure I get that on my line drawing because I did not have it on there. And then this is the bottom of this chair. And then this is the arm that goes back to this one. And this is the support on the arm that comes down here. Okay. I know it's a little confusing, but hopefully when we get done here we'll be able to see it. Okay, so this arm right here is the arm of this chair. So we're just going to paint this one in. And then this is the arm that goes to it. And this goes here. Actually, that line goes to that other chair. This is okay. I know it looks a little confusing. I'm hoping once we get it all painted in, it's not confusing. And then this has its post. We can see a little bit of this coming down here. Oops, wrong color. And then this one here. This is kind of dark in between here, so I think I'll put out some burnt umber. Maybe some black, I don't know. This is like really dark in through here. Like shadowy. And down through here it's kind of dark. And here. And through here. Kind of got some dark areas. Okay, we'll be putting second coats on here, so you know, hopefully it'll all come together. And I'm going to separate those a little bit with my background color when I get to that point. Now this yellow, I'm going to add a little bit of white to it because it's a little different. So we got the back of the yellow chair, the little bit, we can see a little bit of it right there. And then this is the arm of the yellow chair. I think when I come back, I'll just use the straight paint. This is the thick arm part, and it goes all the way, the rest out the way. So that's the yellow one. It doesn't need a whole lot. Okay, move on to the orange one. Now this one will get a little bit fatter slats, so no moisture in your brush, a little more pressure as you paint. And I probably should erase back my graphite lines a little bit. And these should be varying heights, they should not all be the same height. Okay, and then this one has the, see the slats that go across the back. Okay, we've got the arm here. And we can see a little bit of the arm here and then the slats going down here. Okay, and this is part of the orange chair here. It's It's actually this slat that goes down through here. And then there is actually a little bit of one here. That one we can see a little bit of it. Okay, trying to make sure I got all my lines on there when it's done. Now it's going to take a couple of coats for me to cover up my pencil lines, because those pencil lines were way too dark, or the graphite lines. I really should have erased them back. So these I actually drew the shape of the slats a little bit more. My chairs are not going to be perfect by any means, so don't stress out about making yours perfect. All the way down. I'll probably go off camera and repeat all the second layers just because it can become very tedious watching the same thing. And make this one a little tall. But we're kind of at an angle here, so this one's closer to us, so it probably will look a little taller. Okay, and then we've got the board that goes across here. It's in the back, but we can just paint right across the front of these because it's all the same color. And then you can go back and just smooth out right there where it goes across the board so it doesn't look so funny. And then we got the arm right here. Okay, and then the chair itself. So let's do this arm. Now we've got this area here. This red paint's awful thick. And then the chair actually has a little bit that curves down here like a support, but I didn't put that on any of the other ones, so I'm not going to put it on this one. But if you go and get the reference photo and you like that particular line, then go ahead and add it on there. I'm just kind of making basic chairs here. I'm not trying to give them a ton of detail. I just want to give them the look of what kind of chair they are without, you know, overwhelming with detail. So let me finish up this first layer here, and then I will go get all my second coats on. A couple of these might need a third coat because the colors are so transparent. Okay, that's looking super cute. I am loving this, so I'll go off camera and get my second coats on. Okay, I've got my second coats on. I'm quickly adding a little shadow under here. This is a wash mix of black and brown. Okay, and then I need to come in and do these darker areas. I'm going to put some of this washy color here and here. And down through here. a little bit thicker paint of this mix, and it goes in here. And I'll do this a second time. That's really in the shadows there. Okay, I think I'm gonna add the post coming down on this arm right here, because the way I drew mine kind of left this open for interpretation here. So I'm just going to put the post in here and repaint it a couple of times. I'm going to do that 2 more times, and real quick I'm going to show you how I'm going to touch up in between my chairs. Now we're not going to really be doing a lot of shading and highlighting on these. I'll probably put some highlights on them, but we're not going to be doing any shading. But my chair posts need to have a little space in between them. Of course, they got to have that support bar that goes across as well. So if we can make a little space in here that we can illusion that support bar in, that would be good. I did put the support bar there. This is just our oyster beige, our sand color here. Okay, got that a little wide there. Support bar back in here. Okay, that helped that quite a bit. Okay, let me put the support bar over here. This color is just, I don't know, maybe it's just not mixed up well from the bottle, but it is extremely transparent. So, you know, if you want to go with a different color here, by all means. Because it's not been top notch. Oh, I gotta do my separations down there. Too much moisture in my brush. Still looks rough, but it looks better, so I'll definitely come back and do a little cleaning up there. Straighten up a couple here. That's the arm that comes around there. Alrighty, so I got a little bit more touching up to do here. I do want to do my darker color again. So that black-brown mix probably has a little bit more black in it this time, but it's mostly an equal mix. Okay. Alright, I've got a couple places I need to touch up here. I messed up this arm. Clean up next to these dark areas because that's really going to put them back where they need to be if they're not on top of another color here. And maybe a brighter yellow would have been better. Okay, so I can't obviously cover up my lines. There's just no way. They were too dark. I think I might put a little bit of shadow back behind my chairs here. Okay, let me make a wash of that black and brown mix. So I'm gonna make a wash. I really want it thinned down. Lots of water. Just a tiny little bit on my brush, and I'm just going to create some little shadowy areas out here. Come back and darken it, but I'm going to make a little shadowy in here. We can't really see the shadows here. This area in between the glasses is all going to be shadowy, so we're going to do this with this wash. Now these glasses have those little nose pieces on them. I did not add those. For what I'm painting, I just felt like those were not necessary. But if you get the reference photo and you think I really like that, I want it on there, then by all means you can add that in. Okay, maybe just a little bit more back here. Like a little shadow. And I'm going to dry this because it needs to be much darker. So I'm going to add a little bit more paint into my mix, but it's still a wash of paint. A little bit more brown in there, I think. Okay, I'm just going to take my finger and kind of blend it and blur it out. It's a little bit darker through here. Just tap. Blend it out. Our little shadowy areas, there's going to be a little bit of shadow here. So I'll put a little bit through here. Kind of tap and blend and move it around. That's what our fingers are for here. Okay, get even more water in my brush. Take some of that paint out. We're going to have just a slight little shadow over here. Okay, I don't want to get too detailed with the glass, the frames either. But now we're going to add some highlights on the chairs. Now in the photograph there is no highlight on any of these chairs, but I feel like they could use just a little kiss of some white on them for a, you know, reflection somewhere, anywhere. So I'm going to take some white, and actually I want to get as much moisture out of my brush as possible. And just a little bit of white. Maybe here, there, not everywhere. It's going to fade in there, so you can do this a couple of times or just once. Totally up to you. But it's just a kiss. Don't get too much. Probably won't see it on the yellow ones. The yellow ones are so light. Oh, I don't like that one. It got a little fat, a little weird shape. So we'll wipe that off. Give it another try. Maybe a little bit down here. I can cover up some of that. There's lines in there, but I still don't want them very fat, so keep it thin. Sun's kissing this just a little bit. Of course, this chair is going to get a little bit more because it's bigger, and we can see where the sun's really, oops, that's the arm there. We don't want to go through the arm. Let's create the arm. That will help a little bit. Alright, that looks pretty good. Okay, little highlight on those chairs. Nothing major. I mean, seriously, that was tiny bit. So we shaded, created our shadow areas in between the glasses, behind the chairs here, under the chairs, and a little bit by our sand. We're going to make some sand, highlight our sand here when we're done. So now we're going to move on to painting the frames on the glasses. Okay, you can make your frames any color that you want. In the photo, they look kind of like a dirty gold color. I'm just going to make mine like a brownish black color, similar to the color that we worked down here. So I'm going to take my black and my brown, my burnt umber and my black. I don't know, maybe I'll add some of that in there. That's going to make kind of a gray color. That's not too bad. Add 1 black, 2 burnt umber, and 1 oyster beige. That's going to give us like this dirty gray-brown kind of color. And use whatever brush you want. I just drew lines on here for placement, but you're obviously going to want these lines to be a little bit fatter than what the line is that's drawn here. So I am going to make my frame substantial. And just follow all the way around. 1 black, 2 burnt umber. Let me get some more burnt umber out. And 1 oyster beige. And try to give the same pressure to your brush all the way around so that your frames are the same thickness. Unlike mine right there that got a little wobble wobble. So I'm going to clean that up by just taking a damp brush and removing some on this outer edge here. Okay, it's a little thick there. I don't want any ridges in my paint, so get that out of there. So we got 1 lens. Two burnt umber, 1 black, 1 oyster beige. Got a little wide angle out just a little bit. Okay, so we're already looking like sunglasses. I think that looks super cool. Okay, so this is the earpiece over here, where the, you know, where it bends, where the hinge part is, and then we have the earpiece that comes off. Okay. We've got this that goes across the top here. Support piece of the frame, I guess. You want to try and keep that straight, and I'm pretty sure that's got a bend in it, so I'm going to have to clean that up. Take that bend out right there. And repaint that area. Some moisture in my brush. Okay, that looks pretty good. So this is the earpiece that comes off back here. And we're going to see it curving. That's a little bit darker. Let me add some more of that oyster beige in there. Okay, that's what we can see there. Can't really see any details. And then we have this piece. Okay, that looks pretty good. We need to add some highlights onto the frames now. And again, you can do as much or as little detail on these frames as you want. I'm trying to keep it a little bit more minimal, and not so much that you feel so overwhelmed by it. Okay, like I said, I'm not going to do a lot of detail stuff on these glasses. Normally I would shade inside here to create a shadow, but I don't want to do that because this is the focal point right here in the glasses. So I'm just going to highlight on them with some white. And I'll probably do this a couple of times because actually I need to put the little earpiece on over here. That mix. It goes, thing that connects the earpiece right about there. That looks pretty close. I'm sure it was, no, it's not on my line drawing, so I'll make sure it gets on there. Okay, so I'm going to highlight across the top here. And of course across this bar. And on this. Highlight down here. A little bit here. A little bit there, not a lot. Okay, you just create your highlights wherever you would like to see them. Okay, so white does tend to fade in there a little bit, so you can come back in and create some bolder highlights just by going over what you just did with a little bit more white. And I generally just do it in the middle of that stroke. I don't try to go end to end. That's too difficult. So I just go in the middle and give it its brightest highlight in the middle part of that stroke. Clean up that little highlight back there. Okay, I think that looks pretty good for our highlights on there. So we need to finish our sand in the front, highlight our sand, maybe put a little bit more speckling in there, and I think this one's just about done. Okay, so I want my oyster beige and my white. I couldn't think what color I wanted here for a second. And for this, I think I am going to get a little bit bigger, older brush. Let me grab an old, bigger brush here. One that's kind of worn out and the bristles are pretty splayed out. I'm just going to use it dry. I'm just going to grab the oyster beige and the white and blend them in my brush. I'm just tapping them together in my brush. I'm going to tap onto my paper towel. I definitely need more white. I want this to be much lighter than the color that we currently have on there. And this is going to be very loose. I'm going to erase those lines back because they are not going to cover up. What do I do with my eraser? Oh, here it is. We don't need them on here now that we've got our stuff painted in. So let's erase them because we know where our sand needs to go. So, see, we can tell exactly where that line had been. Okay? a little kind of messy tapping, and then take your finger and blend it. Blend it. Tap, tap, tap. Blend, blend, blend. And we're going to bring some highlights down into the sand down here. So we're going to tap it. This is dry brush kind of tapping here. Up through here. Tap it. Tap it. Tap it. Tap it with the brush. Tap it with your finger. It's key to getting it to blend out. Move some of that paint off my brush. Get my brush to get splayed back out again. I need that texture. Tap, 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 tap. Because this is the highest part of the sand, so it's catching the sun, more light, and so we can make little like areas coming out that are a little bit lighter. It doesn't have to stay confined to just that spot. But I do want to make sure that we don't see edges and stuff. Okay, so now it's up to you if you want to add more splatter in here. I think a little bit would be good, or you can just take your detail brush, liner brush, and take some white or some brown. I think I'll take some brown, burnt umber. And this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to tap some in here, and I'm going to touch it with my finger. So you can splatter some in here, or you can just dab some in like this and touch it with your finger, and that's going to immediately soften it back. It won't dry too dark, and really bring the sand stuff more forward. You want fresh paint for this, a little bit of water in your brush as well. Don't do tons, but you know, do a little bit. And I think this is going to finish up the painting when we get done with all of this. I'm going to add a little bit of these spots back here. Not through there. This is more focused in on the photo, so we can do that. Okay, I think that looks pretty darn good, I must say. I have enjoyed painting this one a lot. So much fun. Things like this, I think I really like showing you how to paint a photograph, because things like this we get in our head, oh, that's going to be so hard, I can't paint that. And you know, that's the way I used to be when I first started painting. I'm like, oh, I can't paint that. I mean, I would just completely like, nope, can't do it, can't do it. But it really is just looking at the photograph and kind of painting what you see, and you have the option to put in or take out anything that you do not want in your painting. So, alright, I hope you've enjoyed this one. Give me a thumbs up if you have enjoyed this at all. I hope you guys paint this. So much fun, so easy. Alright, you guys, please subscribe. Please give me a thumbs up. Please comment, and please share. I appreciate every single one of you, and I will see you on the next one. Bye-bye, everybody.